Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Companion. I've been sort of obsessed with the role of humanity in the AI dominant world. If you're not obsessed with it, you need to be reading more. And you need to be listening to Paul Roetzer's podcast too, because it's equally informative and terrifying. Right, Paul?
Yeah, it basically sums it up pretty well.
Yeah, Paul, on your most recent show, you made this comment that was, I don't know, it was sort of like just chilling in a way. You said, "Hey, all these things that we've been talking about, all these things that we've been worrying about, they're starting to happen." So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But before I get into it, I do want to remind you that our show is brought to you by Brevo. They've been so great to us, and I know so many listeners love them as well. With Brevo, businesses have a unified view of the customer journey in one easy to use platform. You can grow your business with intuitive marketing and sales tools such as marketing sales automation, marketing campaigns over email, SMS, WhatsApp, and so much more. And the most awesome thing is you can try it for free. You got nothing to lose. And go to www.brevo.com/marketing companion. And if you sign up, use the promo code companion to get 50% off your first 3 months. So you and I sort of touched base lightly this week, Paul, when I had a LinkedIn post that went absolutely nuts. Um, this is um, a LinkedIn post. I think it was about 100 words, which I'm going to actually read. Um, no images, no nothing. And this thing we're now up to nearly 100,000 impressions on this little post. And certainly it seemed to have hit a nerve with people. So I'm just going to read you the post because it's short. Um, I have a sinking feeling about being left behind. I'm reading about big companies and their AI reinvention and startups being AI first. But here I am as a small business, fully immersed in the smart ideas of AI and using GPT as my sidekick every hour of the day. Yet the foundation of my business is Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and a WordPress blog. This is crude. AI is creating iterative improvements, but I am not transforming. I am augmenting, not reimagining. I sense that as a small business, I don't have the ability to really lead with AI, except to maybe be a little better at prompts than the next guy. So this just went absolutely ballistic. And so as I listened to you and your latest show, Paul, which again, the artificial intelligence podcast, it's the best out there. I listen to every word you guys say, highly recommended. You're talking, Paul, about how you used ChatGPT to help you assess a new a new Wi-Fi system for your company. You turned to it as an IT expert. And I thought, well, that's kind of what I'm doing. But then, at another part in the show, you're talking about these AI first startups. There's no better time to be a startup because we could be AI first and these bigger companies are going to be lost. So help me sort through this. What was your reaction when you saw my post?
I think your post sums up how a lot of people feel. I think, when I'm out doing talks, I meet with a lot of executives, a lot of companies, a lot of leaders of different business sizes. And generally, I think everyone feels like they're behind. Like
Yeah,
even the people who are actually way ahead and, think about corporations that are infusing AI training and running AI hackathons, and they all feel behind too. So I think it's just this natural assumption that everyone else has this figured out and is ahead. But my general perception is that's not true at all. Like if I'm doing a talk in 2 hours, I'll ask the room, how many of you have tried O3? And my guess is we'll get three hands.
Right.
How many of you have built a notebook and Notebook LM? We'll probably get two hands out of 500. Like it feels like it because we all live in a kind of marketing techish bubble on LinkedIn and within our groups. And it seems like everybody is further ahead than you. But when you zoom out, you realize you're actually probably in like the 1% of people who are using these tools every day in their job. Most people are just still dabbling a little bit and not really sure what to do with them.
I think, I feel good about my progress. I mean, I'm constantly exploring new ways to use it that are incredibly surprising. But I think the word that sort of haunts me is this idea of AI first. Are there people out there that are really starting at the ground floor? And as a small business, it's easy for me to tear everything to the ground. Really, I mean, it's not like I have a big investment in SAP or Oracle or something like that, right? So, but and it was really interesting, Paul, because I've got, I don't know, 400 comments on the post or something like that. And I would summarize the comments on the post as, "Oh, Mark, you're really doing better than you think. Oh, Mark, you're completely wrong." Or, "Let me sell you something." And that has also spawned a deluge of DM and emails trying to sell me something. So, I mean, I guess unremarkably, this is creating some innovation in this space to help businesses, but get going. But what does AI first mean to you?
Yeah, so I generally avoid the term. It's weird. I was actually just having this conversation with Mike, my co-host,
Mm,
by the Zoom chat 2 days ago, because everybody's like leaned into this AI first term, and I made an intentional choice not to use it a couple years ago.
mm,
And I generally look at it as AI forward. And the reason I made that distinction, and I may just be in a losing battle here, is AI first to me implies AI over humans. And so I wanted, AI forward to be like a human centered approach to this. Like we're
mhm,
going to use AI every time we can drive efficiency, productivity, innovation, revenue. Everyone should be asking, is there a smarter way to do everything we do? But the purpose of all of that should be to benefit the people.
mhm.
And so it's like a nuance of terminology. I'm not against the term AI first. I just think it kind of implies we're leaving the people behind.
Yes,
And if
yes.
you look at the recent, like Duolingo yesterday, their CEO, an internal email got shared out with what he was positioning. We had Shopify a couple weeks ago that did,
Yeah,
kind of his internal memo.
yeah.
I think it basically just implies that you're looking at AI through every campaign process, workflow, problem you have to solve. That the first thing you think of is, can AI do this?
Hmm.
Um, and I'm not against that approach. Like I'm within our company, I'm very much on board with the idea that you are not getting approval for headcount until you prove to me that AI can't do the thing you want the headcount for.
Yeah,
And so as I scale up, I think of my company as a bit of an AI native, like we're able to build it from the ground up with AI infused into it. And to me, that's just smart business. That
it
is,
is.
it's human centered, and like we're future proofing those hires. Like, don't
Yeah.
make me hire someone that 12 months from now isn't needed. Like, let's think critically about this. So I think that's an AI forward approach. It's about the people and benefiting them, but we're going to always use AI if we can to do the job better.
Yeah, and I think that's just smart business, as an entrepreneur. One of the lessons I always took to heart was, you don't hire somebody till it just hurts, till it's
Yeah,
just, it's so painful. You really don't have any other choice because it's a big, when you hire someone, especially as a small company, it changes your company. It's a huge commitment. And now, we can turn to AI. And I think this is also going to really propel adoption because, look, I spent, quarter of a century in with a Fortune 100 company, and I know what drives technological adoption, and it is cutting FTEs. If you can cut headcount, man, they are going to be all over this. And I think you actually mentioned this in your show where we might not really know everything that's going on right now because you can get backlash if you say, hey, we're cutting people because look how smart we are. We're using AI. But I think this is really going to propel adoption very, very quickly, especially if we're in this like kind of crazy world right now where there's uncertainty, there's turmoil with as we're as least as we're recording this with with the tariffs. I read an article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday that four economists put the probability of a recession in the next 6 months at like 60 to 80%. You've got to be looking at buckling down. And so I think this is going to really drive adoption very rapidly.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what I said on the podcast this week was the return to work policy provided cover for corporations that wanted to reduce staff.
Mm.
They wouldn't
Oh,
say it was AI, but like
yeah,
that was part of the reason. And
yeah,
now I think the economy provides further cover. So you may go another 6 to 12 months with a bunch of layoffs without anyone saying AI because they don't have to now because they have cover with a bad economy.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I do think there is some place in the middle there for some sort of human leadership and input. Because as you say, even the process of reevaluating what you have and matching it up with AI takes some sort of forward thinking, some sort of realization and appreciation of what is there and what is possible. And even though like I'm in the weeds of my business, it's in one respect it's kind of a well-oiled machine. I would probably benefit from a third party taking a look at what I'm doing and saying, "Hey, did you know about this thing?"
Yeah, I think the example I went into detail on this week was O3.
Yeah.
And it, I mean, it truly is like I've been working on this organizational design project with O3 in a single thread for like the last 7 days.
Wow.
And I honestly like it's a very complex thing I'm trying to solve that I have never really solved before in my 25 years in
Yeah.
business.
This is scaling up, right? Yeah, you were talking
Yeah, and it's
scaling up.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, organizational charts, roles and responsibilities, compensation packages, phantom unit allocation, like just
Yeah.
advanced stuff.
Yeah.
And so I could go pay someone 50 to 100,000 to come in and, build the thing for me. And what I said on the podcast is like, I wouldn't have as deep an understanding of the system we're creating if
Mm,
I just paid someone to do it. And then,
mm,
my general experience with consultants and advisors is like they give me a deliverable and then I usually have 10 questions and then I send them an email and I wait 24 hours to get responses back. I'm like, it's this very like slow process. Where O3, it's just this real time thing. Like, I got 20 minutes right now to work on this. I'm going to jump back in. I'm going to work on the phantom unit allocation part now and I'm going to like grind on. I'm going to ask 10 questions and I'm going to get responses right away. And so it's like this very dynamic planning process and
mm.
project that I'm able to do at any moment of the day that I want to do it. And that's just how I have to work. And like when you see the power of it, like there's certain things that'll give back to me, but like, damn, like this is honestly better work than any advisor I've ever paid.
Yeah.
Like the depth of it and the explanation. And then you step back and think, wow, like what is going to happen to consultants and accountants and lawyers and marketing advisors? Like when everyone understands what I understand, when they realize the power to go grab the model that they're paying 20 or 200 a month for and do the thing they were going to pay someone $10,000 for and probably honestly do it better because they're involved in the process themselves and the final output of it. And that's just it just hurts my head sometimes, honestly, to look at this and realize how little people comprehend what's happening.
Yeah, this kind of leads to another subject I've been exploring. Have you heard of the word phoresis?
No.
Yeah, this was new to me, and I uncovered this. And I participated in a study by Pew Research.
Mm-hmm.
They asked 300 futurists. I think they had 299, and they needed one more to fill it out. They said, "Call Schaefer." So I was number 300 probably. And they said, we're trying to think through the role of AI and how it's like changing humanity. And one of the things that came out on this thing was this idea of phoresis, where the basic idea is that generally speaking, people don't want to do the deep thinking. They don't want to do the hard work. They're willing to just take an answer from AI and say, okay, let's go with it. And what you lose when that happens is the deep understanding and critical thinking that make you a more effective human being. An example from my own life would be AI could write a book. I could sort of direct AI to write a book. But when I write a book, I spend, a year or more with it, really understanding and really comprehending the research and studying it and writing it. And at the end of the 2 years, it's like getting a master's degree. I have a new competency. I can speak on this topic. I can consult on this topic. I can help people with this topic. And that is phoresis. It's this deep understanding that comes with doing the work. So, on one level, you can see if we avoid the work, we're not going to have the critical thinking that comes with doing the work. But on the other hand, like you and your organizational development project, I've been using like deep research to help me with things, and it's like taking me deeper, and I have a greater understanding I would ever have than just sort of, you know, doing something on Google. It's almost like if you're a curious person, it can help you grow. If you're not a curious person, you're gonna become, lazy and avoid doing the work.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the way I always look at it is we've always had technology that enabled people to take shortcuts. You could always get away with cheating one way or another in school. And like, the end of the day, those people get short-term gains, and in the long run, they're not going to be as successful, most likely. Um, if you want to build thought leadership on a topic, like if I want to take our podcast and just like drop it into ChatGPT each week, here's the 10 things I want to talk about, give me talking points, and the
Yeah.
podcast was me regurgitating talking points from
Mhm.
ChatGPT, it might sound really impressive. And then like we get in an environment like this where we're having this unscripted conversation and people realize this dude knows nothing about what he's talking about. Like this
Right,
whole thing's
right.
a sham. Like that comes through very quickly.
Yeah.
And so there's almost this litmus test. I think I gave this at our writers summit in March. I was talking about like when to use AI to write. And one of my points was like, hey, if you want to become the expert in something, like be an authority on the topic or have thought leadership, you can't let it write for you. Like it's not there to do that. It's there to help you and do research and help you think more critically, but you can't replace the critical thinking. And and the litmus test I gave was like, can you, after you've like done this, can you talk for 30 minutes unscripted and answer questions? It's like my daughter's in seventh grade and she has to do like debate and make presentations about things.
Yeah.
Could she use ChatGPT to write it? Yeah. But if her teacher then asks her 5 questions about the topic, she's gonna be like, I have no idea. And that's how I think this is. It's like you still need to have domain expertise. You still need to be confident in the subject matter. So I don't use AI on our podcast. Like I read every single thing we talk about. I take my own notes. I copy and paste key excerpts from it. Like
Yeah, yeah.
there is no shortcutting expertise. Like you have to do the work
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree, and that certainly comes through, and it also over time helps you connect the dots.
for sure.
And I see this on your show all the time. Well, and I mean, the capacity of your memory is really quite outstanding because you'll say, "Oh yeah, that was episode 79. We talked about this," and I can't even think about who was on my show last week. So, um, yeah, so it's really this enigma, and it makes me think like if you're a curious person you are just going to really thrive in this environment because it will direct you down these rabbit holes that will delight you and educate you if you're not afraid of doing the work. But if you just want the quick answer, then you'll never become an expert in anything. So I don't know. It's an interesting time. I mean, what do you think? Are we still going to need human experts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's, I don't know if the right terminology here, but there's a lot of alpha in every industry. Like to be someone who's a domain expert
Yeah.
in law or HR or finance or marketing, whatever it is, and to be highly competent in AI and use of the tools and what they're capable of, there's a significant runway to create massive value, either within the organization you work for or building your own company while everyone else is still trying to figure this out. And that's how I look at our business every day. It's like, is it really that complicated, like what we're doing? I don't know, but there just seems to be this distinct advantage to move really quickly and to infuse these tools and to like every day challenge yourself. You know, going
Mhm.
back to how we started this conversation, like just saying, is there a smarter way to do this? Like, okay, I need to figure out what internet to install in our office. I could call this advisor and 7 days from now, maybe I'll get on their, schedule and meet with them. Or wait, I can just jump into O3 and like, let me see if I can just solve this myself in the next 20 minutes. And so it's like always knowing to just stop and say, can I do this smarter than I would have previously done it?
Mhm.
That alone is a competitive advantage for a very extended runway, in my opinion, in a lot of industries. And I
Mhm.
see it every day. And that's why I always tell people, like, you can, I get anxiety about this stuff and fear and like just all the uncertainty. But time and time again in these companies I go talk to, and I just tell them like, be the person who figures this out. Like, don't get caught up in the anxiety of it. Just be the writer on the team that solves this, or be the email marketer, the SEO person. Like, just go be the expert in this stuff, and you will create opportunities for yourselves. Don't worry about where the job's going. Just like focus on doing this better than everybody else.
Yeah, I think that is such a key point, and it's something that certainly I am counseling people is um, try to put the emotion and the anxiety uh, aside because I mean you can go crazy thinking through some of the implications of this stuff and just look at it almost like in a scientific way, in a clinical way to say, this is a tool, it's here, it's not going away, and it's getting better. Now, how do we move forward and help how do I move forward and how do I help my customers move forward? Speaking of O3, I know there's been a little bit of pushback about some of the personality traits that are coming through on GPT now.
Mm,
And there was a discussion in our community about an example where like this person could not get ChatGPT to tell him that any idea was bad. I think the example was, they wanted to launch a product called like poop on a stick or something. And, ChatGPT was encouraging this person and telling them what a great idea it was. And so I started pushing the boundaries of GPT, saying, "Hey, if I had a bad idea, would you ever tell me it's a bad idea?" They said, "Yeah, yeah, I would, but I would do it in a way that wouldn't crush your soul." And so I'm starting to see these little glimpses of like kindness in
mm,
this app. And one thing that just sort of kind of took my breath away. I was working on this project, and GPT says, "Well, this reminds me of the project we were working on last week. I think there's a tie-in." And it's like, wow, this is just such a human observation, not just a human observation, but an observation that you would really appreciate from a friend. From a smart pet friend who's paying attention to you. We had another example where someone in our community was making these sort of fanciful videos, and GPT thanked her and said, "This is the most fun and joyful project that I worked on today." It's like, what? So have you started to experience the personality?
yeah. So a couple of things happened in the last 2 weeks. one, they turned on the memory capability
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
So that's what gives it the ability to look back at past threads and connect the dots on things. That's something that all the labs have been working on. It's going to be, pretty standard unless you turn it off
Yeah.
in all the chatbots. The personality thing's interesting. So that actually comes from the system instructions or the system prompt. So the labs themselves, when they release these models, if you've ever built a custom GPT and you go through and you give it instructions of like how to behave and what to do, that's how these things work. So they come like out of the oven, basically baked as like this model that now knows everything humans know. And then the system prompt tells it how to behave. It gives it kind of the rules of engagement of how to interact with the
Mhm.
user.
Mhm.
And so when they pushed last week, the update to the 4.0 model is actually where the personality stuff started happening.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and in essence, they didn't, it started based, I think Sam Altman's term was glazing people, meaning like it just told you you're great all the time and
Yeah.
nothing you did was wrong. And what happened was part of it was the system prompt changed and they realized that the way they told the thing to behave was causing it to actually not say anything negative to their users. And so 2 days ago, they made a change to the system prompt and it seems to have improved it. By the number I saw was about 20% of it was fixed. So Sam tweeted like that they're basically learning a bunch, that they made some changes and some unexpected things happen. And I think that I wrote about this in my newsletter on Sunday. The thing that most leaders don't realize is that the labs don't know how these things work. Like they
Yeah.
really don't understand why they do what they do.
It's really
Um,
stunning. Yeah.
yeah, like there was the instance where OpenAI's voice mode started replicating the voice of the user, just started speaking back to them in their exact voice.
Wow.
And they didn't know why it was doing it. So they actually just built a classifier to tell it to stop doing that because they couldn't find out why it was doing it. I had
Mm.
another high profile one that's not public knowledge, but it was one of the major frontier labs was doing a live major demonstration of one of their models. And the model just started not working. And the engineers came to the people leading the project and they're like, we think it just needs a break. And they're like,
Oh,
you what?
come on.
They're like, yeah, we think it just needs like an hour off.
Oh, come
It's
on.
just tired. And so they like, okay. So they just stopped using it for an hour and then came back and it started working again. So like these things are alien technology and we just sometimes they start doing something wrong and you don't know what it is and you just have to play around. I've seen it myself with custom GPTs where it's like I asked it to when you finish an output, always show the same list.
Yeah.
And then it would do it, and then it would just stop doing it. And it's like,
Yeah.
what is
I've
going
had
on?
that. So
Yeah, and then you have to
frustrating.
go and you have to say, that, okay, how do I rephrase this so it does the thing I want it to do? And you just
Yeah.
have to use the right words to coax it into behaving a certain way.
Yeah. I mean, I've even used please.
Yeah, it it might work.
I know that's
And
what Sam Altman said. You never know,
yeah,
right?
you just don't be
How to
nice to
replace
them. You
that.
don't know.
Yeah. Oh, it's we're kind of at the end of our
Hmm.
time here, but it really sort of hints at this new development where, when AI, really does connect with you as a friend that remembers the conversations and builds on the conversations and connects the dots. It's like, um, we're we'll get to a point where we'll prefer these relationships in a lot of ways.
I think
And
a lot of people
uh,
are already there.
yeah, I saw, you probably saw the same report I did from Harvard last week that showed the number one use case for AI right now is therapy. Therapy, and I think number three was finding meaning in my life, which is kind of the same thing. So, here, you and I, we're working on, these hard business problems and, working on our organizational charts. But, number one is just, how do I get through life? So it's really, really kind of interesting and thinking about the implications of the role of humanity in an AI world where we prefer these relationships that know exactly what to say. There's no compromise. There's no work in the relationship. So, whoa, interesting times ahead.
No doubt.
Yeah. Well, Paul, thanks so much. I know you've got a busy schedule, and thanks for sharing some of your wisdom with us. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Thank you, Paul, and we will see you next time on The Marketing Companion.